Great. Fantastic. All right. Get my thoughts in order. All righty. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this public hearing of Community Board 14. Anya, we are live streaming and ready to go. Awesome. This public hearing is called to order at 6:31 p.m. on June 13th, 2022 via WebEx. The purpose of this hearing is to hear public testimony with respect to New York State Legislators' amendment to Section 1, Subdivision C of Section 103 of the Public Officers Law as it pertains to public meetings by public bodies in the state of New York. If you wish to testify on this issue, please use the WebEx raise hand function to speak, or email your comments and questions to info@cb14brooklyn.com. The comments received during the hearing will be read aloud for the record. Please state clearly for the record your name and organization prior to giving testimony. Do we have any pre-registered speakers for this meeting?
We do not.
Thank you. All righty. So moving on, I'd like to just provide some background. The Open Meetings Law was amended on April 9th, 2022 to become effective on June 9th or once the New York state of emergency expires. The current disaster emergency in the state of New York is in effect until June 14th, 2022. The amended open laws meeting remains in effect until July 1st, 2024, at which point it sunsets and ceases to apply. Community Board 14 will continue to hold board meetings remotely as long as the state of emergency is in place. Once the order is lifted, the state open meetings law requires meetings to be held in person. However, a blended hybrid option is allowed under certain circumstances, including the requirement that there still be a physical quorum at a location to which the public has access. Remote board participants would have to have a medical, caregiver, or another extraordinary excuse, and such excuse would have to be publicly recorded in the minutes. Remote members would not count towards quorum, but could vote. Needless to say, hybrid meetings in a remote location is both a technical challenge and without additional budgetary support will be cost prohibitive. For committee meetings, the district office is in the process of upgrading the conference room to enable hybrid committee meetings once the state of emergency is lifted. This ends background on the matter. I want to thank Community Board 14's legal committee for clarifying the amended law. To proceed, the board shall adopt a resolution regarding this matter. The resolution is as follows. The title is Resolution to Conduct Remote Meetings During Disaster Emergency in the State of New York. Whereas the New York State Open Meeting Laws was amended on April 9th, 2022 to require in-person public meetings with or without video conferencing effective June 9th, 2022, or as maintained in the amended law once the New York State of Emergency expires. And whereas Brooklyn Community Board 14 will return to in-person meetings once the state of emergency has been lifted or expires. And whereas Brooklyn Community Board 14 will endeavor to add a hybrid option to full board meetings if and only if additional funding is provided to support this purpose. Be it therefore resolved that Brooklyn Community Board 14 intends to remain meeting remotely while the disaster emergency in the state of New York remains in place by executive order. Is there any discussion or questions on the proposed resolution? Please raise your hand. I see Dwayne Joseph's hand. Please go ahead. Board Member Dwayne Joseph.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Just for clarification, did I hear correctly that if a hybrid model is introduced or maintained, if you are remote, you're counted towards quorum, but not your votes are not counted? Or is it the other way around?
Yes. So you will not be counted towards quorum. So we would need a quorum of members present at the public meeting. A remote attendee, board member attendee would not count towards that quorum. However, that remote person could vote.
Okay, I just want to be clear. I misheard you then. Thank you.
Next hand is from Ephraim.
Good evening, how are you?
Good.
Question
Thanks.
number one, you're in a remote meeting and your attendance is still counted as you're there. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, with regards to board attendance record, you would be counted as present, but you
That
would have
What?
to provide a reasonable excuse, and as outlined in the law, it's medically related, caregiving related, or some other extraordinary circumstance.
And that part's effective when?
Well, according to the open meeting law, that would be when the New York state of emergency expires, which right now is tomorrow. Is
All
that
right, so there is
correct?
basically we're up in regular meetings coming up now.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Basically, going forward after tomorrow, we're gonna have in-person meetings most of the time, unless someone has a note, so to say. Am I correct?
Yes, if the state of emergency is not extended tomorrow by the governor, then we would have to have in-person meetings.
Perfect, excellent. Thank you.
Next hand is from board member Carl Henry Cesar. You are muted, my friend Carl.
I thought I had clicked mute twice. I didn't, so I apologize. Thank you, Chairwoman Brown. Good evening, folks. So just some clarity. So if I understand correctly, in a hybrid environment, a board member attending remotely would not count towards quorum, but their vote would count towards any matters. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So then how does that work? You know, I'm curious how I cannot count towards quorum, but my vote can count.
I don't have an answer for you. This is as it was explained to us in the open meetings law.
Joanne,
Got you.
may I jump in and help answer that too? I think that's partly because quorum still needs to be a physically present quorum of the board. So we would, you know, assuming right now we don't have a full complement of board members, but we would need, say, 26 board members in the room, and then the others, if they have the appropriate reason, could come in remotely. But that also presupposes that we have the technical ability to do that from a remote location and the budget. So I just want to add that on practical, how this plays out practically, if we go back to full board meetings in September, assuming there's no state of emergency in place, we have secured the East Midwood Jewish Center as a location, and we have secured the services of Harish Studios. You might all remember Mark Moss, who facilitated these online meetings for us before. And I don't remember, I believe that the cost for his services, EMJC is not charging us for use of space, but the cost of the consultant is $350 a meeting, as long as the meeting doesn't run over 2 hours. It goes up from there. And then to bring in the additional equipment and staff that he would need for hybrid meetings, it becomes pretty prohibitive pretty quickly. And so I don't know if it's in the resolution that the board, no, I think, Joanne, I think it does say, right, that the board would meet in person. Those meetings would be live streamed and recorded, but the hybrid option would not be exercised by the board unless and until further funding is provided to support community boards in that endeavor.
That's correct. In the second paragraph, it says, whereas Brooklyn Community Board 14 will endeavor to add a hybrid option to full board meeting if and only if additional funding is provided to support this purpose.
Gotcha. So thank you for that clarity, because yes, like I was definitely wondering from a financial and an implementation standpoint, you know, what the impacts could be of supporting such a remote thing. And then the other piece that I was thinking of too, granted, I'm not a legislator, but I'm guessing however the open meetings law was constructed, I guess there's a question of what is the definition of a quorum, right? Like, is it still limited to the physical group, or can it include a mix of hybrid and in person? So, and I see the head shaking, so no, it is limited to the physical presentation of people. All right, that's it for me.
Thank you. Before I move on from questions from board members and the public, I just want to recognize that Assembly Member Bobby Carroll is here. Bobby, did you want to greet this body, or are you here just listening?
Hi, everyone. I could just say hi really quickly. I thought this was a regularly scheduled meeting. I didn't realize we were having a specific conversation around the open meetings law. I have no new information on whether the governor will or will not extend the state of emergency. But I don't want to take up too much time. I was going to give an update on what we did in the last couple of weeks of the state legislative session. But I can see you kind of have a full plate on your hands right now.
Our regular full board meeting will be at 7 o'clock, and I'd certainly welcome you to come back. We'll have you speak after.
Great. I will do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I just want to recognize that, hold on, I'm going through it. Joelle Sauvé from Councilmember Rita Joseph's office is here. Thank you for joining us. I want to recognize that Ed Powell, the president of the 70th Community, the 70th Precinct Community Council, is here with us. I also want to recognize that Alvin Burke, Chair Emeritus of this board, is here as well. Moving back on to hands that are raised, Nicole Levinson Angulo, board member, go ahead. You are muted. Right
Sorry,
there.
I suddenly couldn't find my control panel. It's only been 2 years of Zoom and WebEx, and still I find new ways to screw it up. I just asked Anya to actually email the text of the resolution that you read, because I can't really remember what was said. And I would just say for something like this, it would be great if the board can, even if it's a really rough draft, if we can see something in writing before it's read out loud, just because it's otherwise we end up asking a lot of questions about what was said. So just to clarify, even though there wouldn't be a hybrid option, the meetings would still be live streamed on YouTube?
I believe so, yes.
So one thing I would say is that also would be two things. I really think it's super cool that keep happening. Like, I think that's one of the best things that's come out of the pandemic. I've been able to send, you know, like recordings and videos to friends when something that's of interest is discussed. So I really do hope that will keep happening. But just from a technical perspective, I honestly believe you should also make a point about funding for that, because like what you would need to do in order to live stream something on YouTube, it would be a pretty small skip and a hop from there to have the audio set up to allow people to like hear questions from the audience or something like that. Like, I would just say, thinking about the staff time and the burden that live streaming would put on, it would also be nice if the city provided some sort of additional funding for that as well. Because once you're doing the live streaming and you do the setup to hear sound and see things, like it again wouldn't be that much further to allow a hybrid meeting option. I don't know if there's anyone else on the call who deals with hybrid meeting setups that has more experience with that, but that's just my opinion. So if you're gonna dedicate to live streaming it, like, the city should also find some way to support that as well, because that's also somewhat difficult. Although I really, 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 really want to make sure that keeps happening, because I think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Sean, you have your hand up, and I'm trying to get the resolution in the chat. It's on a different computer. I just emailed it to the info at address. We'll see who's fastest at getting it in there. So, Sean, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the board knows that there've been a lot of conversations among district managers, CEC, elected officials, borough president's office about both budget and technical provisions. Different boards are doing different things. The boards that meet on site in their offices have sort of a leg up because they can install permanent equipment. And so there are concerns that have been expressed about sort of unequal access to the democratic process. But we're also exploring working with BRIC. We're also exploring, and I would invite any member of the board or public that has a technical assist to offer to, we could even make a field trip to EMJC to take a look at what's there and how we would go about enhancing the baseline live stream YouTube recording. We're certainly open to suggestions to do that. And those are actually requirements that are above and beyond the open meetings law. Those were sort of tucked into the law, but the live stream was something that the city was working with boards to provide ongoingly. Thanks.
Thanks, Sean. And I put the resolution in the chat. So I'll give everybody a minute to read that and see if there are any additional questions, and then we'll see if we have a motion to move forward.
Oh, while people are looking at this, can I also jump in with some of the grappling we've done with what getting to in-person quorum looks like? This is a board that in my 11 years here has never not made quorum, but we don't know we're going to make quorum until quorum arrives. So there have been meetings where people come in a little bit late or whatever. And so the idea that some people would count as quorum and then other people would participate not counting as quorum, it just sounds a little bit anxiety laden.
Let's see. All right. And thank you, Anya, for archiving that. Were there any questions on the resolution that was placed in the chat? Okay. Would anybody like to so move to recommend adopting the resolution to the full board in our general meeting to follow? Nina, your hand is up. Are you motioning?
Yes, I move that we adopt this resolution.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and vote in the reverse. Does anyone here wish not to recommend adopting this resolution to the full board? Seeing no hands, is there anyone that wishes to abstain? Seeing no hands, is there anyone here who is ineligible to vote on this matter? Thank you, everyone. The resolution has been adopted. The recommendation to adopt the resolution has been approved, and I will bring it forth in the chair's report. Let me see. Being no other business for this public hearing, I will close this public hearing at 6:49 p.m. Please stay put. You'll get a snack and return by 7 p.m. Thanks, everybody.
Joanne already said it, but I want to add my thanks to the attorneys on the board who helped parse through a sort of complexly written piece of legislation and some interpretations from other bodies in the city that made it even more complicated. So thanks for that work.
Joanne, are you on or did you step away?
Hi, Dawn Marie.
Going on.
Looks like we have quorum, so we'll get started in just a minute. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to our general meeting. Ephraim, you missed your cue. I was waiting for you. Guess I'm on time.
I apologize. My blue was keeping me busy. Yeah.
Thanks for keeping us honest. All right, let's get started. This meeting of Brooklyn Community Board 14 is called to order on Monday, June 13th, 2022 at 7:00 p.m. under the applicable statutes of New York State, the Charter of New York City, the board's bylaws, and Robert's Rules of Order. The board's policy is to encourage detailed public discussion of matters before the board at our committee meetings and at public hearings. Consequently, except by board members, there will be no public discussion at our regular monthly meeting of matters about which a public hearing or committee meeting has been held. Specific service delivery requests or complaints should be brought to the attention of the district office staff by calling the board office during regular business hours or by visiting our website at any time. Other matters of civic interest may be brought before the board during our scheduled public comment period, which will begin tonight after all other business on the board's monthly meeting agenda has been concluded. No partisan political appeals or advertising of for-profit enterprises will be heard. Persons wishing to speak during the public comment period were asked to pre-register. Tonight's attendance will be taken from the participants list. Moving on to the minutes. Were there any changes to the minutes via email to the board office? Okay. Are there any changes from the floor? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt the minutes of the
Motion to
meeting?
approve.
Seconded?
Second.
Thank you. We'll vote in the reverse order. Are there any board members here who wish to vote against adopting the minutes of the May 2022 meeting? Seeing none, are there any members that wish to abstain from voting? Seeing none, are there any members who are ineligible to vote? Unanimously, the motions of the May 2022 meeting were approved. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to the district manager's report, District Manager Sean Campbell.
Hi, good evening, everybody. First, I want to wish everyone a happy Christo and Jean-Claude Creative Life Day. I didn't even know there was such a thing, but I just found out there is, and I love Christo. So happy that. I want to apologize for a couple of June dates that we had to change at the last minute and thank the committee members and presenters for their flexibility this month. I don't recall ever having to do that before, and we had to do it twice this month. So I apologize for that. Even though this is our last full board meeting of the meeting season, we do have a pretty full calendar still for the rest of the month of June. Assuming if there is no executive order in place, we will be meeting in the office, Youth Services Committee on the 16th, and Executive Committee, and other interested board members. Sometimes people feel like the Executive Committee is a closed meeting, but these are all subject to open meetings law, so everybody is welcome to Executive Committee on the 21st. And then tune in. This will be a remote presentation because it's not an official committee meeting, but a presentation by Christian Zimmerman regarding a Prospect Park project called Lakeshore that promises to have some flood mitigation benefits for the surrounding neighborhoods. And it just looks like a really cool project. So I encourage you to join us for that. We had our June District Service Cabinet meeting at the beginning of the month. It was a little bit disappointing because we had a few agencies not show and a few agencies that showed without updates, but we were glad to have the commanding officer of the 70th Police Precinct, Deputy Inspector Bruce Separano, with us, as well as the superintendent of BK14, Robert McKenna. And if I forgot to mention, Robert McKenna has been appointed. He is the new superintendent of BK14, so we are still in good hands. And so I expect the high quality service from BK14 to continue. I also met with his big boss, DSNY Commissioner Jessica Tisch, and I'd like to extend my thanks to Councilmember Lewis for including me on her tour with the commissioner. We met at Newkirk Plaza, and she took some interest in the status of the plaza. We also will be meeting, Brooklyn District Managers will be meeting with DOT Commissioner Yadanis Rodriguez tomorrow under the auspices of the Brooklyn Service Cabinet meeting. And we hope to impress on him the value and utility of early community engagement and meaningful consideration of local input in the earliest phase of projects and with identifying locations of community concerns. So even though we do have a few meetings left, I do want to remind everybody the office will be open all summer long, so please don't hesitate to reach out if we can be assistance on any city matter or just to say hello. And we'll be there working on bringing the conference room up to speed, cleaning out our storage space and taking on a data project or two. I'm continuing to work with the Future of Community Boards to set up meetings with Committee on Government Operations, the CEC, and follow-up meetings with OMB and DCP. And we've pitched a land use training program to a group of Columbia students that I hope will come to fruition this summer. So thank you and be in touch.
Thank you very much, District Manager Sean Campbell. I'd like to recognize some of the electeds that are elected and representatives of electeds that are on our call. I'll start with Assemblymember Bobby Carroll, who was with us at our public hearing. Assemblymember, would you like to address this body?
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I was cooking. It is dinner time in the Carroll household, but it's wonderful to be with all of you at CB14. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Sean, for having me. Very quickly, we just ended last week the legislative session in Albany. A few really important things did happen at the end of session. We passed a number of bills to strengthen our gun laws here in New York State, raising the age to own a rifle and semi-automatic weapons in New York to 21 years of age, stopping the sale of body armor, and a whole host of other things to strengthen our already very, very strong gun laws. But obviously, there is always more that we can do, especially around the country in Congress, to make sure that violent individuals who have unbelievably atrocious motives are not able to get these weapons. The white supremacist shooting in Buffalo, as well as the school shooting in Texas, unfortunately, are no longer rare events in our country. I think we all know that. And it's going to take all of us to try to figure out a way to make sure that we can get the guns out of the hands of these kinds of individuals, because they are destroying the lives of just hundreds and hundreds of Americans and families throughout our country. Further, we passed a number of pieces of legislation to make sure that we further protect the right to choose for women in New York, as well as women who are going to come to New York if the Supreme Court does overturn Roe v. Wade, to make sure that both women and doctors and others are able to have a right to choose and are able to come to New York as a safe harbor. We passed a number of other pieces of bills that were very important, including a number of bills that I introduced around literacy education and dyslexia, around lowering the eligibility to register to vote to 10 days before an election. That was a bill that I drafted, as well as a flood insurance bill that protects renters that I drafted to make sure that they have disclosure if they're living in a flood zone or a building that is prone to flooding, which I think is, very, very important. And I was happy about that. We did not do everything we needed to do. I am the lead sponsor of the Build Public Renewables Act, which would allow for the New York Power Authority to own and operate renewable energy generation. I'm hoping that we will be able to get that done either in a special session or next year. But I know you have a busy night. Did want to just stop by and say hello. And if there's a question or two and we have time, love to answer it. But if not, I totally understand.
There is a question from board member Nina Seppier.
Yes, good evening, and thank you for joining us, Mr. Carroll. Could you speak to the sections that were passed regarding the Crash Victims Safe Rights and Safety Act? Thank you.
Yeah, so we did, I believe we passed a number of street safety bills, one of which was to keep speed cameras and red light cameras on 24 hours a day. Um, I am blanking on what other pieces of legislation in the street safety area that we passed. I know that we passed that one. Is there another specific bill, Nina, that you're referring to?
I know, no, you're speaking about the right bill. I just was trying to keep track of which components, because I know in total there were 8, and I know that I believe the home rule component and something else did not pass, and I just don't remember which of the 8. Other than I know that the speed and red light camera part did go through.
So the speed and red light camera went through. We did not give home rule. I do believe we allowed municipalities to lower speeds inside cities and towns to 25 miles an hour throughout the state. I don't have all of my notes of every bill. We passed about 600 bills in the last couple of weeks and 1,000 bills over the last 6 months. But be happy to talk to you about go over each one of those. But we did a lot of work on street safety, and more could be done.
Thank you.
Thank you. I believe I have time for 2 more questions. There's a question from Tyrone McDonald. Go ahead.
Yes, how you doing as Assembly Member? How's everyone else doing? Yeah, thank you for passing the bill related to the flood disclosure. Neighborhood Housing Services did support that bill. You know, in the future, we're looking for that disclosure for homeowners. But here's my question regarding that bill. What IDA exposed with is a number of neighborhoods within the borough where they're not necessarily in a flood zone. However, you know, they were impacted by flooding from, you know, basically, you know, blocked street drains. So does the bill just basically address areas in which there's a likelihood of rising like water, like coastal flooding, or does it also address the probability of, let's say, flooding from, let's say, street drains or other unlikely flooding that we normally don't think of?
Phenomenal question, Tyrone, and thank you for your support of the bill. And the original version of the bill that I carried, of course, included homeowners. Unfortunately, legislation is not always so easy to get done. And at this juncture, we were able to get protections for renters, but not further protections for homeowners. There are some protections for homeowners already built into New York law. But to your question, which is really great, which is saying, hey, if I'm not in a FEMA flood zone, or I'm not in an obvious area that would flood, does this bill still protect me? And it should, because in the bill, you know, the person who is renting the piece of property, leasing the piece of property, he or she is going to have to inform that renter if they do know if the building has flooded previously. So if you had a flood at your building because of Sandy or Irma, or because one of these flash flood rain events that also were made worse because of poor drainage. And I know that in Ditmas Park and Victorian Flatbush and Prospect Park South, we've got lots and lots of issues with drainage. It was one of the things that I had a call with the MTA a couple of months ago, and it was one of the number one things I brought up was, you know, we still have huge issues with drainage down by Glenwood Road and a couple of other roads down there in Midwood that seem to flood every year when you have heavy rainstorms. So yes, if it was known, if it had flooded previously, now if the building had never flooded before and it was not in a floodplain, you know, then there probably would not need to be disclosure, just because you wouldn't have met one of the criterias for disclosure.
Thank you very much for clearing that up.
Thank you. The last question is from Board Member Sahid Khan, if you wouldn't mind being brief, Mr. Khan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good evening. My question is regarding the literacy program. If you kindly give some detail about what is the literacy enhancement, education, funding program, or you extend some more places. So I just want to know about the literacy program.
Shahid, which program are you referencing? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Literacy program.
Oh, literacy program.
Yes.
Oh, so yeah, so the bill that I passed was a first ever for New York, which was around a dyslexia task force program, which would require the commissioner of the state education department, Dr. Betty Rosa, to impanel a series of experts to come up with curriculum, screening, and teacher training for teachers K through 5 in regards to dyslexia, dysgraphia, and other issues around phonological awareness.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Shahid.
Thank you very much, Assembly Member, for joining us here tonight, and enjoy dinner.
Thank you, Joanne. Have a nice night, everyone.
Thank you.
I'd like to recognize that Commanding Officer Deputy Inspector Bruce Separano from the 17th Precinct is on the call. Looks like he's joined by Detective Scott Nuzzi from Community Affairs. Deputy Inspector, would you like to address this body?
Hi, thanks for having me, everybody from Community 14. It feels like these months are flying by. I feel like we just had one of these, but it's my pleasure to be here. I don't really have much to report other than, crime-wise in 70 Precinct, we're doing pretty good. Our shootings are down. This time last year, we had 9 shooting incidents. We're down to 5, thank God. 5 too many, obviously, but we're doing a good job, getting guns off the streets and deterring violence. What's driving out crime right now in the 70 is domestic violence assaults. For some reason, it's spiking. It's obviously a terrible thing when that happens, but my domestic violence unit, they've been doing a lot of domestic violence outreaches. So about 60% of the victims that are reporting being assaulted are first-time victims reporting it. So I think, just because we're up in domestic violence assaults, it's a good thing in terms of the victim. A lot of these domestic violence victims are coming forward and reporting their abuse. So other than that, besides domestic violence assaults that's driving out crime, we're doing well in other crime categories. And if anybody has any questions for me regarding any quality of life issues, I'll be here for the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I also want to recognize that I did see Police Officer Michael Joseph from Community Affairs 17th Precinct also floating around in my participant list. Welcome. I don't see any questions for you, Deputy Inspector. Thank you for coming here tonight. I appreciate you.
My pleasure.
I want to recognize that Lisa Derrick is here from Assemblymember Rodney Spichot Hermelin's office. Did you want to bring greetings?
Hi, yes, there. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Joanne. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I wanted to just give an update to Community Board 14 on some of the activities, just following a little bit after Bobby Carroll with regard to legislation. The Assembly member, the legislation passed quite a bit. We can never pass all bills, but we passed quite a bit. And the Assembly member had 5 bills that she successfully sponsored and was passed by the legislation. One of them was including Cedric's Law, which some of you may know. Cedric Simon was a gentleman who got struck by a train in our Flatbush area. So the Assembly member was looking to have working surveillance cameras that would be on the platforms and other areas of the subway that would be able to detect activities such as this, and we know that there's a whole host of crime going on as well, so this would serve to help in that purpose as well. She also passed, the legislature also passed the Carlos Law, which is a law that would help to push for a safer environment in the construction sites. This would introduce increased punitive measures for corporations, supervisors who are involved and are failing to follow particular safety protocols. So we want to make sure that we protect all of those workers who are on site. There are 3 MWBE bills, the Minority and Women-Owned Business Enterprise bills, that were passed as well by the legislature. One includes the New York City MWBE program. They increased their discretionary threshold, which is an amount that they can go up to have spending without having competitive bids. So it goes from $500,000 to $1 million. There's also another bill, which is not specifically an MWBE bill, but it's a bill that focuses on the construction industry. So there's an advisory council that has been introduced, a 23-person advisory council that has been introduced to address a lot of the concerns that get in the way of having a smooth process for a job to be completed from beginning to end, including funding, including meeting certain protocols and restrictions and stuff like that. There is also a bill for MWBEs where MWBEs are now allowed to refinance their existing debt by utilizing some of the MWBE funding that is made available. So those are the 5 bills that were successful. We also have, and moving away from legislation, we also have an event that is coming up on the 22nd of June. This is a Wednesday. It's going to take place in front of our district office at 1312 Flatbush Avenue. This event is for the men. It's going to be a prostate cancer screening opportunity. There's going to be a mobile van. Mount Sinai is partnered with us where they have a mobile van coming to our site, and we'll be able to screen individuals. So if any of you are interested in participating in this, please do register. Registration is required because we'll have to slot the time as well.
Yeah, I came to cut mine.
So,
I'm muted, so I'm on a Zoom call.
Oh, okay.
How are things?
Excuse me.
I was gonna blow this off and.
For those that are calling in,
Oh, don't know.
I see 2 numbers calling in. Please mute your phones either by hitting *6 or by using the manual mute on your phone. Thanks so much. 2 numbers. One's a 646 number. One's a 917 number. Thanks.
So with that, I know my time is probably almost up. Thank you, Joanne. I would like to wish all the gentlemen a happy Father's Day that's coming up. I'd like to wish everybody in the community a happy Juneteenth. And for Community Board 14, a happy summer for July and August. Thank you for allowing me the time to speak.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that report from the Assembly member. I do have representatives from other elected officials here. I'm happy to allow you to briefly tell us or briefly bring greetings from the council member. Otherwise, we are really running short on time. I can also move into the public comment period. So I'd like to recognize that Joelle DeSauvet from Councilmember Rita Joseph's office is here. If you have brief greetings, please go ahead and give them to us. And if you have anything of more substance, let's move it to the public the public portion of this meeting at the end. Go ahead, Joelle.
Oh, thank you, Joanne. And as always, I'm glad to be here. And for the sake of time, I put all the information on the chat. And if you have any question, please don't hesitate to email us. And for the public part of it, so I will be speaking if you want me to. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And also, same sentiment for Tamara Bonet Cardona from Councilmember Farrell Lewis's office. All right, we'll come back. I want to recognize a few other people. We have Ellie Slavin from Councilmember Yvette Clark's office. If you have brief greetings, otherwise, if you'd like to bring it to us at the public comment period.
I'll be very short. Just one correction, Congresswoman Yvette Clark.
Sorry.
No problem, no problem. Okay, again, I put my information in the chat. Now, there were 2 days of congressional discussions passing the bills regarding gun control. Some have been accepted with the Senate, still not, the data is not in yet. They're still discussing it. Please go into our web, which is clark.house.gov. A lot of information there. You can make comments and we'll get back to you. And again, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And then just a mention of some other representatives. We'll have you speak at the public comment period. From Borough President Antonio Reynoso's office, Hassan Chowdhury. From Mayor's office, the Brooklyn Director of Community Affairs, Anastasia Yaskova. I also see that Nancy Lulu from DA Eric Gonzalez's office is here. Welcome. Our Chair Emeritus, Alvin Burke, is with us tonight, as is Ed Powell, who is the President of the 17th Precinct Community Council. I also see Ken Lazar from the DOB is here. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and move ahead with my chair's report. Okay, good evening, board members. Happy Pride. Happy Caribbean Heritage Month. Happy National Puerto Rican Day, and happy Father's Day. The first item on my agenda is a recommendation from the public hearing held just before this general meeting. A public hearing was held on June 13th, 2022 at 6:30 to hear a resolution that will allow CB14 to maintain remote meetings whilst a state of emergency is in place. It is Community Board 14's intent to hold meetings remotely via WebEx until June 14th, 2022, and will continue to hold meetings remotely in so long as a state of emergency remains in place by the governor of the state of New York. It was the recommendation of the board members present at the public hearing to approve the resolution. I'm going to put the resolution in the chat for anyone who did not read it previously. All righty. So again, it was the recommendation of board members present at the public hearing to approve this resolution. Do I have any questions from board members at this time? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adopt the resolution to maintain remote meetings whilst a state of emergency is in place?
Motion to adopt.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and we'll vote in reverse order. Those that are against adopting this resolution to maintain remote meetings, please make it known. Seeing no hands, any board member wishes to abstain to vote? Seeing no abstentions, and then finally, any board members that are ineligible to vote on this resolution? Seeing no hands that are ineligible to vote, the resolution passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to the second item, new board members' introductions. I'd like to thank our departing board members and welcome new members. Thank you so very much to our outgoing members for all of your hard work, and for many of you, your very long service. the following: Chair Emeritus Alvin Burke, Leonie Francis Bryant, Maria Ravan Hazelwood, Lee Chao Ying, Ray Edwards, Ann Gaudette, Kashif Hussain, and Zachariah Khan. And now I'd like to welcome new board members: Walter McQueen, Mendy Porpaikari Harris, Musa Hassoun, Sophia Francis, Corazon Valente, Eric Ost, Moshe Schoenfeld, and Elizabeth Benz. And welcome. Thank you, everyone, for all of your service, and I look forward to working with all of the new board members. The executive committee will be held on Tuesday, June 21st at 6:30 p.m. This is an in-person meeting at the board office where we will orient new board members. I look forward to seeing you there. The next item on the chair's report will be the Borough Board meeting. The Borough Board met on Tuesday, June 7th, 2022 at 6 p.m. The board received a presentation from Michael Barbosa, Assistant Attorney General from the Brooklyn Regional Office. The Office of the Attorney General is open for in-person appointments at 55 Hanson Place to meet with community members on a variety of issues. The office is also available to make presentations to CBOs on preventing ID theft, educating seniors to be smart with regards to their personal information, tenants and homeowners, immigration, and labor law violations. Our second presentation was from Alden Madry, who is a staff architect for the Prospect Park Alliance. The Alliance has received $4.1 million in funding from former council member Brad Lander to build a Prospect Park riding facility just north of Prospect Park Zoo. Historically, this area of the park supported horse riding at the turn of the century, and the new facility will be utilizing what is currently a publicly inaccessible area and bridle trails. The design will include a riding center and a covered and uncovered riding arena. The horses will be provided through a contracted concession agreement via RFP to be released in the future. Unfortunately, the Borough Board did not reach quorum, and we were not able to vote in support of the project before it goes to the Landmark Preservation Commission. Once the project goes to public hearing, the timeline will be about 1.5 years before construction commences. I inquired if the riding facility would make the Bowling Green Arena in the South Parade grounds obsolete, and if so, what would be the fate of the Bowling Green space? Since Community District 14 ranks last in accessible green space, I hope that our community will be able to participate in a robust discussion on how the Bowling Green space will be used. This ends the Borough Board report. My last item tonight is regarding the Committee of the Whole. The board will convene during the months of July and August only if officially notified of an item that requires a vote, in which case it is recommended that the board vote on a resolution empowering a Committee of the Whole to act on behalf of the full board. This enables the board to satisfy its quorum requirement during the summer. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution empowering a Committee of the Whole?
Motion made.
Second.
Thank you. We'll vote in reverse order. Are there any board members that wish to vote against the resolution empowering a Committee of the Whole? Seeing none, are there any board members that wish to abstain? Seeing none, are there any that are ineligible to vote? Seeing none, the motion to approve the resolution empowering a Committee of the Whole is unanimously approved. Thank you, everyone. This ends the chair's report. So we're moving on to topical committees, reports, and items. The first committee to report will be Community, Environment, Cultural Affairs, and Economic Development. Thank you.
Hi, can you see me and hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Sorry about that. we're not meeting this month. We did have a meeting, forgive me, I'm having trouble accessing my notes. I'm sorry, Madam Chair, can we circle back? I'm at work and I'm having trouble accessing.
Of
my
course.
notes.
I'll I'll come back to you after the next committee, okay? The next committee to report will be community safety.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of my co-chair, Mr. Abe Treff, and myself, our committee met on May 24th. We finally did get a commanding officer to attend the meeting. Our new commanding officer, who's been hard at work, Deputy Inspector Saparano, and he was there and he spoke about things that were happening in our community, which he just stated earlier about domestic violence going up. However, not having, in other areas going down. They did arrest the person who was shoplifting. That was one of the items that happened. He did, however, speak about the shooting that occurred on the 20th of May at the Flatbush Junction, where a 15-year-old, there were, I think, the students from Erasmus were gathered there, and an altercation occurred, and a 15-year-old got shot in his right knee. He was very concerned because two of his youth officers were there on the scene. However, there was, like total disregard for the uniform presence that was there. Since then, he has opted to place 6 to 8 police officers at the junction. And just for a point of information, I just want to say that I'm also with the 7-0 Police Precinct Interfaith Clergy Council, and Pastor James Thornton, who's the president of the council, and Pastor Jerome, who's the treasurer, and myself. We did do a shooting response with Detective Newsy and Officer Joseph, and subsequently I organized a 3-day, presence out there with Al from Drum and Elite Learners. Drum was on the 7th, Elite Learners was on the 8th, and ARA, Mental Wellness Awareness, were out there on the 9th. And so we gave out flyers and brochures like these in excess of, like, the youth got over 100 were given out to them. They deal with fatherhood, LGBTQ, and depression and domestic violence. And I must say, some students even came back to ask for their friends as well. But the inspector continued to inform us about the community response team that the 7-0 is utilizing at this time. There'll be 1 sergeant and 5 police officers whose main purpose is to respond to the community as a preventative measure. And so Deputy Inspector Saparano did say that he did stress that the officers would do their job constitutionally. So if there was a large group of folks meeting and they were drinking and music was loud past, certain time of night, then they would, without using undue force, get them to lower the music and, to ensure it's a preventative measure, precautionary measure to make sure that nothing violent happens. So then Steve Cohen, who's a board member, he commended the CO on the work he was doing, and he asked about the temporary license plates and how he wanted to know how fake temporary license plate would be identified, because it's been an issue in the past summers. And so Deputy Inspector Saparano did state that his new team has access to state officers from different states, and that if someone is stopped and they verify if those plates are illegal or not, then they could address the matter there on the spot. He also said that he noticed that there, there were less vehicles with the temporary plates, and that if they were spotted, then and they were in the wrong, then if something's up, then they would have to be arrested, given a summons, or the car would be confiscated. Then Dwayne Joseph, another board member, did commend the deputy inspector, and he informed us about the community cultural affairs, how they reported that safety and crime has been an issue for the residents and business owners alike. He also asked that the deputy inspector include more about the NYPD youth programs like the Explorers and the Youth Academy in their social media output. And Deputy Inspector Soprano responded that that would be done. And then we did have introduced Troy Olson from Councilmember Vernicott's office and Joel DeServe from Councilmember Joseph's office. They were acknowledged. And then Nina Saber, another board member, mentioned that, on social media downtown, that there were officers that had some of their personal cars, their driver's license were partially obscured and some were defaced. But Deputy Inspector Soprano assured us that's not so in the 7-0, because they do take preventative measures, and they do inspect the cars of the officers. And we learned that Mr. Troy Olson is a lawyer and an Army veteran who has, for the past 4 years, he's a new member for the council member's office, but he has been for the past 4 years combating homelessness for veterans. And then Joe DeServe suggested that the council member's office has received several complaints about double parked cars on Coney Island Avenue. And Deputy Inspector Soprano also notified us that 3 extra cars are being dispatched from 8 to 2 a.m. in our areas within the community 7 days per week as another precautionary measure. And I'm almost the end. And then Nina had asked about Prospect Park and whose jurisdiction it's in. And she was told, or we were all told, that it was in 7/8's jurisdiction, but the parade ground is in the 7-0. And then she was concerned about the bikes that are there, and was told that the commanding officer from 7/8 already has a plan in place for that. Dwayne did ask about the Sector 8A, the map for Sector A being added to the precinct's Facebook page, which Detective Newsy and the inspector did say that it would be done. The inspector also notified us that we would have the 7-0 would retain their manpower, because they wouldn't be giving details to Prospect Park or Coney Island, but those extra officers would be sent from the One Police Plaza. Deputy, what was it? Okay. Then Sean thanked the inspector. Okay. She also asked about the response team, or if we had any other resources for the fireworks, because we know the district office is usually inundated with lots of calls around that time. And so the deputy inspector did assure her that that would be taken care of. And so Gail asked questions as well. Well, she commended the deputy inspector, and And then Sean, then the meeting, Dwayne talked about the marathon, that there was ease. So basically the deputy inspector was, have been doing a great job, and the members did say that. And then before the meeting, then the meeting was motion to be adjourned by Ms. Gail Smith and seconded by Mr. Dwayne Joseph. And I just want to say that before I end this part, that tomorrow as another outreach, and in areas that are prone to violence, and because the laundromat that's on Ocean Avenue have had 2 shootings this year, we will be doing a food giveaway, and the 7-0 Precinct Interfaith Clergy Council have partnered with Anne Marie from ACT. She's bringing fresh produce, the DA's office, Canberra Catholic Charities, ARA Wellness, Drum, and True Care to give resources to the residents of the community. Thank you very much, and have a good evening, and happy Juneteenth, and happy Father's Day when it arrives.
Thank you very much, Florencia. Circling back to community, environment, cultural affairs, and economic development.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you very much for your patience there with my technical challenges. Before I move forward with the report, I will say this to Florencia's point during the meeting. For public safety, I did request the map be added to the Facebook page, and it was added within 3 days. So thank you very much, Deputy Inspector Cipriano, for your responsiveness. That said, the Community Environment, Cultural Affairs, and Economic Development Committee met on May 16th. We had presentations from the CDNA, the Community Development and Needs Assessment team, which was made up of the Church Avenue bid, the Flatbush Notion Junction bid, Day Abroad Village, and Habnet. They were discussing essentially, the current status of the district from an economic development standpoint, what they saw their needs were, what the overall status of the businesses were, and what the concerns were from the commercial members of the district. Overall, the district was doing very well despite some reduced profits as a result of COVID. Merchants were having difficulty in securing credit or financing and support in terms of relief from COVID. So that's still a bit of a challenge, but those teams, the bids, have been working with those merchants and the various elected officials to try and get that resolved. Overall, the businesses were very happy with the community. The community sees our district as very diverse, affordable, and they believe that, and I quote this from the report, most people think that everything is here. We have a unique position in our district where we have a lot of economic corridors, and those corridors are very diverse. So I would agree with that, and so do the merchants. The major concern that was brought up by the merchants was around parking, which is, for our board, it's not a new concern. Both residents and businesses want to see more opportunity for residents to park and pick up and drop off in front of their storefronts. Residents are always looking for space to park because it is difficult and a challenge to find parking around the district as a whole. And they were looking into the businesses were looking into the varying ways that they may combat some of those challenges around residents being able to access their storefronts. In addition to that, they brought up the concern around safety. They did a community survey amongst the businesses, the commercial members of the community, and the residents. And number one concern was around you know, the on-street, like things like burglary and um, I guess it would be like small theft, things like that, and sanitation. You know, overall, no one was completely displeased or completely happy with those two things. There definitely, you know, there was requests from the businesses as well as residents for increased enforcement around double parking, especially on our commercial corridors. Church Avenue was brought up as an example where, you know, they just instituted the bus lanes and the 15-minute parking areas, but still there was a lot of double parking. So there was express interest and request from the community as a whole that there be more enforcement on our commercial corridors. Overall, I mean, the report itself was very positive. And I should mention that it was presented by the team from the Flatbush Nelson Junction bid, which is Kenneth Mabunu, and I hope I'm not butchering his name there, who is the executive director, and Cuthbert Onakute. They presented on behalf of the organizations that were taking part in the survey. Again, they kept mentioning the healthiness of the businesses in the district. They have an 88% occupancy rate versus a 12% vacancy rate. They're hoping to, you know, of course, improve that. But again, as a whole, the businesses seem to be very, they seem to be very content with the way things are for the moment, given the circumstances around COVID and some of the displacement of residents and loss in profit, those sorts of things. They are looking for more support from their elected officials and some of the other business-based resources like the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce and whatnot for support in securing more financing and grants in terms of release. Following that report, we had an informational update from the Cortelyou Merchants Association, as well as the Flatbush Development Corporation. They were represented by Dina Rabner and Lupe Ramsey, respectively. They were highlighting overall the area of the district they cover, which primarily the Cortelyou Merchants Association runs from Cortelyou Road. It runs along Cortelyou Road from, I believe it was Ocean Avenue down to Coney Island Avenue. They have had great engagement from the community as well as their merchants. They have a model that allows both merchants and residents to subscribe to their services to help support the local business and the local economy there. Again, the biggest concern they had was around safety and around sanitation. The same can be said for the Flatbush Development Corporation, which helped with the support and development of the Newkirk Plaza Merchants Association, as well as just overall, they manage things like Litmus Park Day and a few other outreach events in the community. The concern primarily with the Merchants Association with Newkirk Plaza was, again, and this has been mentioned several times by our district manager and by our chair and the overall board, is that no one's claimed ownership of the plaza in terms of a city agency, and it would be very helpful if an agency took on the responsibility of the plaza so that more can get done for it. You know, the Merchants Association itself is building itself out. They've developed quite a bit and are you know, filling vacancies in the area very well, and they feel there's a lot of good engagement from the community. They as well, major concern, safety and sanitation. It was discussed several times over the meeting, sanitation being a major issue, especially during the pandemic. Our district manager did mention that, there was going to be some changes at sanitation, and there was an overall consensus among the members that participated and the community members as well as board members that participated that whatever funding the city was considering cutting for sanitation, that they should not. So we hope, I haven't had a chance to look at the budget, but we hope that they didn't cut and they actually increased. I know I personally look at sanitation as a public health issue, so that's essentially it from those meetings. Summary. Overall, again, the overall business or economic community they seem to be very pleased, very healthy. COVID was a challenge for everyone, but they seem to be taking it in stride, and their only concern is that they can have better stewardship from elected officials, and again, those business resources to help them secure funding with their relief effort.
Thank you very much for that report.
You're welcome.
I need to give a time check. It is 7:55 and we have 5 topical committees that need to be report. So I'm asking for the co-chairs going forward for the next 5 reports to please be succinct and make bullet points. The next report will be from Human Services. Thank you.
You want to do it?
Hang on just a sec so I can access my notes. Let me do this. Where did everything go? Oops. Okay. So yes, so we had a very, very interesting presentation. There were 3 components. The first of which was from DSS, Aged, Blind, and Disabled Program. And this was presented by Audrey Diop, who's the Managing Executive Director for the Office of External Affairs. And she spoke to primarily the issue of health insurance access, Medicare and Medicaid, and the different criteria for being eligible for those various forms of health coverage. I'm not going to go into the details. I know that we have the contact information at our board, and one can contact the services online through the Department of Social Services. We also heard from Brianna Solane, who's the community organizer for Impact Brooklyn. And this is an organization that provides tenant and legal counseling services, helps tenants who are at risk for eviction so that they know their legal rights, not only eviction matters, but also things like repairs and safety concerns in the buildings or places of residence. Primarily it is for dwellings of, I believe it's 6 units or more. It doesn't really address, say, 2-family homes, but those services and the contact information is also available through CB14. And last but not by any means least, we heard from New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation about the incredible work that's being done on Coney Island Hospital and the complete restructuring to make it a really up-to-date major medical center with an expanded outpatient services and state-of-the-art inpatient care. And it just sounds like it's going to be quite a beautiful building and provide really improved services for South Brooklyn. And this is very necessary. We know that there was a lot of damage there during Hurricane Sandy, and in general, the hospital has needed an upgrade. So we're all looking forward to that. And I think things are going to be up and running in the fall of this year, or at least most of it will be. So thank you.
Thank you very much for that report. Next committee to report will be transportation.
Hi there, can you hear me okay, Joanne?
I got you.
Okay. On behalf of Steve Cohen, my co-chair, and I, greetings. We had our meeting on June 8th, and we had a presentation from DOT on traffic calming proposals for Avenue M and East 12th Street and the other nearby school intersections. I'd say we spent maybe an hour and change asking them questions about their proposal. I'm not sure DOT had really been prepared for the depth of our questions, the breadth of our knowledge, and the passions that the board members showed. So we asked numerous questions, and at the end of it, I think we definitely had the feeling that not all of the questions had been properly answered, and in fairness, they would have to go back and return to us with more fully formed answers. So the committee passed a resolution empowering Steve and I to distill from the video a list of questions to send to DOT for them to get back to us post haste, because we really do want something to be done there. As I'm sure many of you may recall, there had been a fatality in 2020 caused by a driver performing an illegal U-turn. And I believe DOT had said the earliest that they are going to be able to have the changes in place that they proposed would be 2024 and 2025. So we certainly don't want to cause any more delays, but we definitely had the feeling that they needed to come back to the committee and to the board with additional information for us to make an enlightened decision. So basically, I guess, I've reviewed the video. I came up with about a dozen or so questions. Steve has contributed, as has Sean and Joanne. And so I guess at this point, Joanne, should I ask if there are questions concerning the motion for us to write the letter?
I believe your committee empowered you to go through the video and distill those questions. If there are any board members that have any questions, if we could be brief. Otherwise, I think you're in good shape to send those questions off to DOT.
Got it. One thing I would say is, if there are other board members who would care to go through the video and maybe submit any thoughts or comments they have for our review, if that'd be welcome. And if you could possibly do that within 48 hours or so maybe we can try to get this out to them like Thursday morning or something, that'd be great.
Brian, if I can jump in to also note, of course, the video, all meetings of committee members are on our YouTube channel on the board, but also the presentation itself, if you want to take a closer look at the PowerPoint, is on the website under projects.
Thanks.
And just the last thing for committee report, very briefly, there was a presentation the day after our committee meeting, like a community presentation about Dollar Ride's proposal to electrify dollar vans. It was a town hall meeting that Farrah Lewis's office helped organize, along with East Flatbush Community Development Corporation, Haitian American Caucus, and others. Along with myself, I think Nina and Liz were both attended that meeting. And board members might recall that Dollar Ride had a presentation, or folks on behalf of Dollar Ride had presented to the Transportation Committee in May, and then at our May board meeting, Rona Taylor from East Flatbush Community Development Corporation spoke a little bit during the public comment period about it. So this meeting just kind of went in more detail, had a number of folks who were just more familiar. Just to give a really quick overview, basically Dollar Ride's a finalist for NYSERDA's Clean Neighborhood Challenge, which is going to award 3 grand prizes of $10 million each. There's six organizations that are seeking those prizes. And the plan would be to electrify dollar vans and install publicly accessible electric vehicle charging stations, starting with Flatbush and Utica Avenues, although they would seek to expand from there. With regard to the electric vehicle charging stations, those would be put in basically private lots along the along the Dollar Van routes on Flatbush and Utica Avenue, so they wouldn't take up public spaces, and they would be used by the Dollar Vans during the evening, but would be available to community members, to basically the general public during daytime hours. And let's see. Yeah, I think that was all I wanted to cover from that. There was more detail, but I know we're stressed on time, so we'll wrap with that. And everyone have a great summer, and looking forward to seeing everyone in September. Thanks.
Thank you for that. And I just want to thank the co-chairs of the Transportation Committee for, being excellent stewards of that difficult meeting that you had with the Department of Transportation. Thanks a lot. Moving on, next committee to report is Youth Services, Education, and Libraries.
Good evening, folks. So just two things. One, we have our committee meeting for this Thursday evening. That's bullet one. And then bullet two, I turn it over to my co-chair, Nikki.
Hey everybody, I just wanted to say a quick goodbye. I don't have to step down for term limit reasons, but I have to move outside of New York for family reasons, or New York City. It's been a pleasure to meet all of you and get to know this community in a community. And I want to just thank everyone here for everything that they do. I think I joined in 2016, but especially the staff. One of the reasons I wasn't afraid to join the community board was just how nice Anya was to me every time I showed up in a meeting, and Sean. So it's been a real pleasure. If you ever go to Rochester, come visit me, and hopefully my husband will be done with his fellowship soon, and I will be back in Brooklyn where I belong in 2 years. But thank you, and just keep up the great work.
Thank you very much for that report. And Nikki, thank you so much for your service. Your energy will be missed. Your smarts and your energy will be missed. So we can't wait to have you back. Thank you. Moving on to the next report from Housing and Land Use.
Thank you, Chair Brown. On behalf of my co-chair, Talisha Sainville, we have no news regarding recent meetings. However, we will be meeting with the chair and with District Manager Campbell this week to talk about future programming for the fall and initiatives. So just one call out in that respect. I know we've been trying to touch base with committee member Melissa Minich. I may have your wrong email, I don't know. But if you do have a moment, we'd love to hear from you as well to talk a little bit about the future programming as well. You can either do that through the district office, or if you do have my email, you can send it to me. That's it. Have a great summer, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to recognize that Eileen Mulaney Newman from the Borough President's Office is here with us. Look forward to hearing from her during the public comment period. And that concludes topical committees. Moving on to our ad hoc committee, a report from the CB14 Flatbush African Burial Ground Task Force. Thank you.
Hi again, folks. And forgive me, the date slips my mind because I was not prepared to present on this. But we met, I believe it was last week, Tuesday, with Councilmember Rita Joseph's office, just to go over what the role of the board was going to be, and the involvement of the member herself. We are, still trying to figure out which the council member has been, and her office has been working really hard to get done, figure out where exactly the future of the lot, what agency the future of the lot will reside under, whose purview. So there's still some discussion around that, and there'll be an update on that hopefully by the end of the summer. And you can, Sean, Talisha, you can let me know if I missed anything. But that's where we are right now. We met just to get a feel of where, again, what the role of the board is going to be in trying to facilitate meetings for the community, and the different city agencies. And the council member's office has been actively, very, very active in trying to find out where this plot of land will ultimately, whose hands it will ultimately end up in.
Thank you very much for that report. And yes, very, very active her office has been in attempting to find a home for that parcel of land within a city agency. I wanted to recognize that Assembly Member Brian Cunningham is on the line. Assembly Member, did you want to address this body?
Hey everyone, sorry for my tardiness. Just wanted to say to everyone, a very happy summer and thank you for all the incredible work this community board does. I was once a member of this board, so I know firsthand the kind of work that takes place here. Really excited about being back home from our recess and all.
We lost you there, Assembly Member.
This community board and with its members to continue to represent the 43rd Assembly District. But have a great summer, everyone. Looking forward to connecting in person, hopefully soon in the fall.
Thank you very much for those greetings. All right, that concludes the report from our ad hoc committee. Moving on to the public session. This brings us to our public comment period. Board members are expected to remain for the public comment period. Because we're meeting remotely, all speakers were asked to pre-register via email to the board office. Any member of the public who is not able to register in time can follow up directly with the board and staff, who will include appropriate announcements on the CB14 website. Matters of civic interest and announcements of public events are invited. No partisan political appeals or advertising of for-profit enterprises are permitted. Service delivery requests should be brought to the attention of the staff by email or during regular business hours. Each speaker will be permitted to speak for up to 3 minutes and may not receive additional time from another speaker. The board has an obligation to conduct its business in an orderly manner. Any person preventing the meeting from continuing will be muted and possibly disconnected from the meeting. The intent of the public comment period is to permit the board and the community a chance to hear diverse perspectives on public issues. Accordingly, we ask that groups be represented by a single speaker. It is now 8:11, and Anya Hoyer will be announcing our previously registered speakers at this time.
Good evening. Several of our previously registered speakers have spoken already, so I will go ahead with the remaining speakers. The first of which is Bridget Roberts Ingram from Coney Island Hospital. Go ahead. Bridget Ingram, I see that you're on the line. You are muted. I can come back to you. The next will be Nancy Lulu from the DA's office.
Thank you, Anya. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. Greetings on behalf of DA Gonzalez. Just wanted to announce that this weekend was very eventful. The DA joined the National Puerto Rican Day Parade in Bushwick and Sunset Park, as well as the Pride Parade. It was really great to be out there. Also, I would like to announce that on Wednesday, June 15th, that Brooklyn DA Gonzalez will be holding a Cannabis Know Your Rights Town Hall at the Universal Temple Church of God at 1403 Eastern Parkway, Brooklyn, from 6 to 8 p.m. Come out and learn about your rights after the passage of the New York State Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act and new economic opportunities. To RSVP for this event, please go to Community Affairs at brooklynda.org or call 718-250-3888. Also, if you have a public safety or quality of life matter, anything you would like to speak to the Brooklyn DA's office about, to call the Action Center at 718-250-2340. I would like to finally conclude by thanking Community Board 14 for everything that you do. I also would like to say happy Pride, happy Juneteenth, and happy upcoming Father's Day to all the fathers. And I would like to wish everyone a great and a safe summer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy. Next is Joelle De Sauve from Councilmember Joseph's office.
Thank you so much, Anya. Again, I'm glad to be here. I already put the information that I wanted to share with you regarding the bills that the councilwoman introduced. However, I will use this time to please extend my kind of like, I don't know if it is possible, Chair Joanne, that committee chair Barden to CC our office on the letter that they intend to send to the DOT, because there are several issues that we are kind of working with the commissioner right now, and we would love to know some of the thing that you are asking, so we don't ask the same thing, or probably join our force to ask them on that. And second thing, I know that you will be like kind of like recess for July and August. However, I will ask Dwayne Joseph if it is possible to reach out to him in regard to issues related to sanitation and health, because it's something that we want to work on and we are doing our best to work with sanitation and ACE, but still a lot need to be done. So that will be my request. Thank you.
Sure. Joelle, we'll connect with you offline about both of those matters and how we can assist.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Joelle. Our next speaker will be Tyrone McDonald from NHX Brooklyn. Go ahead, Tyrone.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Committee Board 14, thank you for allowing me time to speak. Just a couple of things that I want to bring to your attention. Neighborhood Housing Services still has the Home Help for Heroes program, which is a home repair grant program for disabled Brooklyn veterans. They can get up to $20,000 for repairs just to make their home more accessible so they can live more independently. It's open not just to veterans who are homeowners, but also tenants can also apply, or if just the veteran actually lives with family. But in those instances, either the family member or the landlord, if it's a tenant, will have to apply for the grant. All right, so that's still available. And the disability is pretty much open, just so long as they actually can prove, by the doctor or the VA that, whatever disability they have limits their mobility. That's fine. We also recently opened our AHC grant, which stands for Affordable Housing Corporation. That's open up to general Brooklyn homeowners. They can get up to $20,000 just to do repairs, which includes either damages, code violations, deteriorating conditions, leaky roof, so forth and so forth. All right, I would put contact information in the chat. Now, for both grants, there are some income limits involved. However, it was recently increased because the AMI was recently increased. So thank you for your time. It's great seeing all of you, and have a happy and pleasurable summer.
Thank you, Tyrone. Next, we have Hassan Chowdhury from the Borough President's Office. Go ahead, Hassan.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a quick mic check. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now we can't hear you. Now it looks like you're muted. Let's see. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, we could hear you, Hassan, but now we cannot. Try it again. I will come back to you in just one moment. We will give an opportunity to Bridget Ingram from Coney Island Hospital. Bridget, would you like to speak? Okay, and Hassan, coming back around to you. Okay, Chair Brown, those are our two final pre-registered speakers, and I don't think their mics are working. So sorry, please send us things at info@cb14brooklyn.com. I will put it in the chat and we can post any announcements you had to share.
Yeah, apologies. Even when you're muted, Hassan, we can't hear you. I apologize. Okay. All right, everyone.
Chairman Brown?
Motion to adjourn?
Yes, go ahead.
Chairman Brown?
Yes, go ahead, Miss Mulaney Newman.
Hi, I'm sorry. I did not get to sign up earlier because I had technical difficulties, but I have a feeling that the announcement Hassan is also going to be making, I can tell you, is that to remind everyone to respond, those who are members, community board members that are staying on, and our new community board members, to respond to the RSVP link for June 23rd and July 12th at 6 p.m. at Borough Hall and virtually for the swearing in ceremony. So we've got a good response so far, but we can always use more. We'd love to have everyone come. And on behalf of the Borough President, he sends his greetings and thanks everyone for their service. Thank you. The whole staff at Borough Hall actually thanks the community boards for their service. And I hope everyone does have a great summer, and I will see you in the neighborhood.
Madam Chair, we have a comment in the chat of somebody else who had signed up to speak.
Okay, hold on for a second. Thank you, Eileen, for the greetings, and thanks for pitch hitting. I appreciate it. Miss Fuller, I'm sorry that we did not get to see your name. If you have something brief, please go ahead.
Sure. I'm just a resident of Community Board 14. My name is Betsy Fuller, and I over the past couple of years have been asking a lot of questions around the redevelopment of this year's property, and I'm interested as a resident in the immediate vicinity to learn more about this development. We have seen in the press and the Real Deal that this is a 650 unit residential complex that is planned on the 2 of the 3 tracts of land that make up this property. And I understand also that this is between the 3 properties, it is straddling both community boards 14 and 17. And that
Thank you, Ms. Fuller.
Is as of right. I have a few questions and would love to be connected to either the Housing and Land Use Committee or anyone else who's relevant in this topic.
Okay, sure. Why don't you go ahead, Sean?
Yeah, Ms. Fuller, just call the office and I'm happy to speak to you about this. This is an as-of-right development. The community board does not have a role in it, but I have been trying to engage with the developers and I'm happy to have a chat with you. Just call the business number. I'll put it in the chat in case it's not, in case you don't know it off the top.
Appreciate your help.
Yep.
All right, everyone. That ends the public comment period, correct? Thanks.
Motion to adjourn.
Yes. I just want to say before we adjourn, happy summer to everyone. Looking forward for us to get together in the fall again. We do have a couple of meetings by committee during this month, so we do have an opportunity to see each other. I see the motion to be adjourned is on the floor. Is there a second?
Third.
Seconded.
Second. Fourth.
Second.
I just wanted to say happy Father's Day to all the dads.
Thank you, Gail. All right. This meeting of Community Board 14 is adjourned at 8:23 p.m. Thanks, everyone. Have a great, safe summer.
Thank you. You too.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great summer. Happy Father's Day. Happy Juneteenth. Happy LGBTQ+ month.
Happy summer, everyone. Summer, safe summer.
Safe summer, everyone.
See you in September.
Bye. Thank you.